week's video, guys. I hope you guys had a good new year, and Craig is already back for more upgrades. Just to remind you, the last two videos that I've done has been involving this red MR2. To recap, it has a forged 1ZZ engine. I'm pretty sure the head is stock except for springs and retainers, but the bottom end is 10-to-1 compression pistons, which are forged in forged rods as well. We have basically the equivalent of a GT 2860, I think, and it's got a custom intercooler I put on it. It's got Haltech Elite. We got 440cc injectors, and right now it's just pushing about 8 psi on wastegate spring. So, upgrade time. We have gotten an oil cooler. We have a Mishimoto sandwich plate, which has a 185 degree thermostat. We have the fittings, and we have the -10 line. We have a Mac valve, so I can start controlling the boost via the haltech. And then we have a R9K fuel rail, the fittings for the fuel rail to be -6, all the fittings, and then we're going to do a return system. So I have an Aeromotive fuel pressure regulator, an AEM 340 E85 fuel pump, which will drop right into the 1ZZ, the MRS fuel sending unit. I have E85 friendly hose, and like I said, all the fittings, including the ones to convert to this will go on the factory hardline that's on the firewall and convert it to -6, and then this will go into the fuel sending unit for the return line, and it has nylon washer, and it's called a bulkhead fitting. Anyway, this is what I got for him for the upgrade. And then when he dropped off the car yesterday, he also dropped off a full steering wheel, works bell hub, and a quick release setup. And then we also have a pillar pod, and then a Haltech can gauge, and I need to install the AEM gauge that we have in the car. He also dropped off Cusco door bars, so we'll also be installing those. So, it's going to be quite a transformation. Well, just like the other two, these are going to be more update video style. So, I've already taken off the strut brace. I've cut the zip ties and freed the harness so I can get to the rail. Jacked it up. Then this is what I'm talking about. So you have the subwoofer here, and then the amp and the distribution panel, whatever that's called. I'm not a sound system guy. And then since we didn't have a pillar pod, I just put the AEM gauge back here. So now I have to unplug the Haltech, and then undo all these wires again, undo the sound system, and pop this whole tray out so I can access underneath it. So I think that's what we're going to do first. Okay, lots of progress in little time. Anyway, to take this off, it's just 3 bolts, one there, one over here. So once you take that off, it reveals this cubby, and there's only 2 bolts holding it in. It's this bolt and this bolt. But in order to pull that cubby out, you also have to take this off, which is just 2 pop rivets here and 1 pop tab here. So you just push these 2 down and then pull it out. And then there was one other thing. This was connected on the cubby, so you have to go on the back side and push that out. But after you get the cubby out, then this is just sitting there like that. There's no bolts holding it. It's weird because they made a tab, but they never inserted anything into the chassis for it to bolt in. That's literally just a holder. So they just have some glue on it, which is interesting. Anyway, after you do that, you just undo these two plugs. And this now is our fuel system. Okay, so to remove the fuel line, you find this yellow tab and you just pull it out like that. It has to come out all the way. Oh shit. Yeah, y'all just saw that on camera. Okay, I got all the bolts out, and you literally just pull. This is over the sending unit. You take that off, and then you just pull it straight up. And this is what you're pulling out. It's a full fuel assembly unit. And our fuel pump's in here, and there is a regulator up in here that we'll have to take out. So I'm going to disassemble this, pull the OEM pump out, and show you how to close off the factory regulator. This comes off, which you can now get to the sock of the OEM pump. Then you do the same thing, popping these off, and you can see our fuel pump is in there. And then this is the factory regulator. So this is pretty satisfying, so I'll pull it out on camera, but it literally just pops out. This is why you have to get an AEM 340, because it's the only big pump that will fit in here. So we've got to transfer this stuff, and then we can just flop the new one in. So here's the new AEM pump, and as I said, it's 340 liter at 40 psi, and that's the part number if you guys are doing this. Identical pump, which is great. We have a different connector, I think, so we're going to have to solder on. Actually, let me try. The plug is the same, but the factory spade terminals are tiny, where the new AEM are big terminals. So I'll have to get the pigtail out of the box. And this is the sock. I think it will work, because we'll just kind of stick it like that. But I am not seeing... there. Okay. So it comes with a new O-ring and this new one. So we're going to cut this off and solder this new one on. Okay. So I got the sock on. I've got the retaining clip on, which was super tight. I don't know, it seemed like the wrong size, but I cut the old connector off, and like I always do, I staggered the connections so they can never touch even if they rub through. I also double heat shrinked them, and we're ready to go on this front. The only thing I need to do is take this seal off and then weld that shut. And then oh, no, one last thing. I got to drill a hole right in the middle of this for the bulkhead return fitting. In fact, there's even a plus sign in there. That's probably where I'm going to drill it, where that plus sign is, if you guys can see that. So this was really easy since I had a drill press. I literally just slid it in there and drilled it in the center. Started with that little one and just went one step up until the fitting just slides right in here, just like that. And you can see we're just going to miss that little P right there, so it's going to sit flat. I already cleaned everything. And then you can see in there, there's enough room as well for the other nylon washer. So we'll bolt that on and show you. And it's that easy. You just put a 19 there and a 19 up top and just tighten it. Be careful not to tighten it too much. I tightened it until I started hearing some noise, like plastic being compressed. So I think it's good and tight now. And we are ready to reassemble once I weld this guy. Okay, it was not easy, but it is welded and grinded. Like I said, better have a good welding friend who can weld this, because it was not easy at all. But now we're going to put the O-ring back on, and then we can put it back in here. And that's what holds the other side if you guys are worried about how that stays right there. The very last thing is you have to trim this now for the new sock and the new pump. So I had to cut all of the middle part out. But now it should fit and it will hold our fuel pump in place. You can see I probably could have left half of that, but it wasn't trying to stay anyway. But you can see the pump's not going anywhere. This retainer is holding it, and our fuel pump is now all together. So we can put this back into the fuel tank. And then we just have to run the return line. Got the OEM fuel rail and soft line out. So that can go in the trash. I'm gonna be honest, dicking with the fuel rail has been one of the hardest things. The injectors, the O-ring on the intake manifold is very hard to get to. But anyway, it's all installed. Had to find bolts because this is so much longer. I think they made it so tall just to clear this, but oh well. It looks cool. I wish it was black, but you know, this was readily available and I didn't know if I bought a new one from the company if they were in stock, because a lot of people are saying that it's in stock until after you buy it and then it's not in stock. So everything for this build I got off of eBay from reputable buyers. Then the one thing that I couldn't get off of eBay was that fuel rail. So I opted to use Facebook Marketplace. There's a dude selling this one. So I do believe that the new ones come with studs. So you can do that, but I don't know how you would do that anyway, because I had to put the rail in with the injectors and then lean the rail forward to just drop those bolts in. So yeah, it was a little irritating, but I got it. We're going to start making fuel lines now. One fuel line made. This is for the inlet of the fuel rail, so a 90 here. Get under the car again. You can see, where's the fitting? Right there. This fitting right here is a 5/16 hard line female to a -6 male, and that's where the 45 will connect to. Okay guys, so we're now to the step where I need to mount the regulator so I know where to make the lines. So I got the -6 45 degree, and I figured out I'm going to put it there. So I've already drilled it and put rib nuts in there. Okay, I turned the light off, so, or the overhead light, so maybe you guys, yeah, it's lighting it better. So we have the fuel rail installed. We have the feed line to the rail installed. And then it comes out of the rail, goes over here into the regulator, then comes out the regulator, is held on the firewall by a little P-clamp that I have down there. Then it's zip tied to the one of the brake lines that are going through the tunnel. And then it comes through the tunnel, comes right here, and then I have it snaking this way because that's the least amount of kink in the hose. So I think we can get away with this, and then I'm just going to have to either hammer right here or just kind of cut it out so that this can sit here unimpeded. So I'm doing all the physical stuff that I need to do, and then I'll go back and do all the wiring. So now we got to wire the knock sensor and now the boost solenoid as well. And guys, remember, if you're using an external gate, you use port 1 and 2. And if you're using an internal gate, you use port 2 and 3. But we have cloth braided 1/4-inch hose there. And it goes there on one side and then back there on the other side. We got it zip tied to where they're not touching. You can see there's a gap through there. The oil line, and they're away from the heat as much as possible. This is also heat resistant hose, so we should be good. It's the same stuff I use on the RX-7, and it's held up just fine. So boost control done, physically done. It's amazing how long it takes. It took like an hour. I got the front bumper off, as you can see, and it's not much. There's one bolt here, couple bolts up here, one bolt down there, and then you just do all the under tray. There's 3, I think, and then 2 in each deal, and then it just kind of comes off. You gotta undo 2 wires for the blinkers on the side. Anyway, we have this off because we're going to do the oil cooler up here, and see if I can't get you. We're going to put it like here, but as you can see, the fittings are kind of the same as the bottom of the car, so we're going to tilt the brackets just a little bit to kind of angle this to get our fittings up and out from the bottom of the car so we don't damage those. So figured out where to put it already. I made, these are 2 brackets that I just made, and it's 1/4 inch aluminum, and I've tapped them with an M610. So these will bolt onto that, and then we're gonna drill 3 holes in these, and then I'm gonna transfer it to here, and then we'll riv nut these. Okay, so I got the holes drilled, bolted it back on. I went over here, I marked with permanent marker, and then as you can see, I did some nut inserts, rivets, rivet nuts, whatever you want to say. So got all those. That is done. So now I test fitted it again. It's fine, but these holes are pretty, they're exactly the size for an M8. So we're going to take these off, drill these one size bigger, and then clean these brackets up so they're presentable. And then we'll bolt it back on, and there it should stay. And then we'll do the lines when I get the dash 10 line in later this week, probably Thursday. Okay, brackets are cleaned and ready to go on the cooler. There we are, and you can see it's above the radiator support, so you'll have to crush the radiator, and honestly they're going to go like that, so you can see it will have to crush quite a bit before it hits those. And we've got it kind of tilted, so we should be good. We got as much, and with me really pulling on it, it still doesn't hit that support. I may put some foam right here just in case it ever does hit it. But yeah, we'll run both the lines through here and go underneath this tray and go follow all those lines right there. Follow those all the way up over the gas tank, and then to the oil sandwich plate. But I think that's it for this video. That's full return system, boost solenoid, and the oil cooler. So come back next week, and or 2 weeks. I try to do every 2 weeks, but come back in 2 weeks and I'll have all of that finished. We'll have the Cusco bars, the NRG steering wheel install, and the canbus pillar pod as well. Then we'll do all the wiring as well. Then I'll include, we've got to retune it since it's a return fuel system. So we'll have some street pulls and stuff like that. So stay tuned, subscribe if you're not. If you made it this long and you're not subscribed, what are you doing? But we'll see you in 2 weeks.